Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of MYOG, Make or Modify Your Own Gear. And today, we're going to be taking a look at making some custom chains for my different lanterns. Now, this was inspired by my UCO lanterns. And UCO has always come with these chain and hook. Now, this is a blessing and a curse at the same time. Many times I wished this chain was longer, and it's not. And many times I wish I could remove this chain easily off here. Like when I want to set this on a flat surface, and this chain flops down, gets in the way. More than once I've had the chain like hanging out like this, and I've swept by and it's caught the sleeve of my coat or something like that this hook has, and I've swept the whole lamp with me. Alright, so today we're going to be making some custom chains for all these lamps you see here, including the Mini, which I think is the biggest mistake UCO ever made, was not putting a chain on this Mini. So let's get into it. But before we do, I want to apologize. I got the AC running in the background. I hope that's not too noisy for you. It is stupid hot here today, so we're just gonna have to all live with it. Alright, let's move on. First, let's cover the tools we're gonna need for this MYOG. You're gonna need a ruler, a machinist square, and a pencil. A file. This is a Mill Bastard file, works really good. Pair of wire cutters. Couple pair of pliers. And you're going to need some kind of rotary tool with a cutoff wheel or a metal saw. More on that later. A drill with a 1/16 of an inch drill bit or a 1.5 millimeter drill bit. A screwdriver to drive in your wood screw. A common everyday carpenter's hammer. Some clamps, heavy duty clamps, very useful. Supplies or consumables we're going to need for this MYOG. Jack chain. Comes in different sizes. More on this later. A single wood screw. 1/16 of an inch stainless steel filler rod. You can get this at welding shops. In metric, that's 1.5 millimeter. This stuff is pretty hard, takes a shape, works well. 1/2 inch diameter washers, that's the outer diameter of the washers, 12.7 millimeter. 16D common nails. These very nifty little clips. I found a nice assortment on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. 28 gauge brass wire or similar small wire. This is 0.41 millimeter. And of course, the cat's got to make an appearance right now. You know, hey, I'm filming. A hardwood block. This is 3/4 inch oak plywood, and it'll work well for what we're doing. Alright, let's get started. First, let's talk about jack chain. Jack chain is pretty common chain that you can pick up at most hardware stores here in the United States. You can find it online, various sources. In the United States, I'm not sure about other countries, we use a numbering system for jack chain. The larger the number, the smaller the individual link will get. This right here, this small link, this is number 16 common jack chain. This larger link is number 14. Now when you look at one of the UCO lamps and you look at the jack chain that's on here, it looks to me like it's even bigger a little bit. I don't know, it's pretty close. That might be number 14. Might be a little bit bigger though. So this could be a larger size. Jack chain's pretty tough. I mean, I can sit here and pull on that number 16 and I'm not pulling it apart. That stuff's pretty strong. So for smaller stuff like these candle lanterns, stuff like that, I'm going to use the lighter chain. For bigger things like this Ryobi lamp, I will be using the heavier chain. Okay? So that's where I'm going on that. So we're going to start and we're going to make a custom chain for my candle lanterns. And I think I want about 8 or 9 inches of chain. I think 8 would work real well. Okay, so 8 inches is roughly, what is that? If that's 8 inches in centimeters, I'm talking about 21 centimeters. All right, this is where I want to end it. So I'm going to take my pliers, and I'm just going to open this last link and disconnect this chain, and then I'm going to close that last link. There we go. So now I have this 8-inch piece of chain. Now the reason why I want chain this length for one of my candle lanterns is if there's a small tree branch or something like that, I can go around it and then hook into itself and hang that lantern that way. And there's some other tricks I'm going to show you here. So now I got my length of chain. Now we are going to take our clips, and I'm going to find an appropriate sized clip. I don't need a big one. There's all different sizes in here. I think this one right here, the small one, I think that will do well. And I'm going to put that clip on one side. Alright, our chain is more than halfway done now, but now comes decision time. I can take my candle lantern and I can remove this hook and put on this chain. That's easy enough to do with a pair of pliers. Or we can use some of our supplies to make a jig and make a custom hook. Let's do that. So we're going to take this wooden block, our measuring tools, and our pencil. Now first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this block. It's pretty close to 2 inches wide. So I'm going to set this square up to where I can make a center line on this block. There. So we have our center line. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a spot, I think right about there. Not quite centered, it's off-centered. That's going to be our first point of reference. Our second point, let me extend this line. Our second point of reference from this mark right here, we're going to go over 13/16, make another mark on our center line. 13/16 into metric is right around 20 millimeter. So 20 millimeter between marks, or 13/16. Then we're going to go 1/4 of an inch over from this line, and we're going to draw another parallel line here. 1/4 of an inch to metric is about 6.35 millimeters. So there's our line. So this is what we have so far. Then we're going to measure from our first mark right here. We're going to measure over 5/16, which is here. Put a light mark. Then using our square, we want to cross that other line. Alright, so 5/16 from here to here. 5/16 in metric is about 7.9 millimeters. So 7.9 millimeters, and this is our mark. So we have 3 marks on this wood block. Now we're ready for our next step. So we have our wood block with our 3 points of reference laid out per the instructions. We're going to take our drill with our 16th inch or 1.5 millimeter drill bit, and we're going to drill these holes. Just like that. Now I usually drill holes all the way through. Okay? So we have our 3 holes drilled. After I clean this up, we're ready for the next step. So we have our wood block with our holes. What we're going to do is we're going to take our wood screw and our washers, and we are going to put them on here. Now we need, I'm going to use about 4 of these washers. I'm going to put them in this hole right here. This hole. Okay? Now when you tighten this down, you want to have these washers as neat as possible, almost as if they were one piece. You might have to play with it a little bit to get it there. There we go. So we have our washers in that hole. We are ready to carry on to the next step. Take one of your 16D common nails, and we're going to put it in this hole right here. Alright, we're going to line up on that hole. I've got that started. Sorry for shaking the camera. I'm going to take this off camera and do it on a more solid surface. Okay. So now I got that nail in there. Now we're going to saw this nail off right about here, just above the height of these washers. Oh, always wear ear protection and eye protection when doing something like this. I'm going to mute this when I turn this on, so you don't have to listen to it. Well, that was good timing. All right. That is hot. I'm going to clean these jagged edges and everything up on here with our file. this is complete now. And you might be asking yourself, what in the hell did I just watch him make this whole time? Well, we made a jig so we can make these hooks. All right, let me show you how we use this jig. So we have our jig. We're going to go to the edge of the table here. We're going to use our clamps, and we are going to clamp this down just like this. Just like that. Then we're going to take our 1/16 inch stainless steel filler rod. That's 1.5 mil in metric. Insert it in this hole here. And we're going to start bending. Now you may have to remove one clamp or the other as you do this to get going. So we're going to have to remove this clamp to start with. And I'm going to bend this down. I'm going to come around our nail and over itself, just like that. So we went through the hole, around, and over, right? Now I'm going to come in here with the other clamp, put this other clamp back on, take this clamp off. Now we're going to come around these washers. Alright, then this clamp, it's musical clamps, everybody. This clamp goes back on. Okay, this clamp comes off. Alright, so we have the basics of our hook. Now what we can do is we can come in here, we can cut right there. This is waste. Take this off. As you can see, we got the beginnings of a hook. I'm going to go ahead and cut it right here. Now it just needs to be finished. Let's get everything ready and let's finish this. Alternately, what you can do instead of taking these clamps on and off when you're using this jig, you can drill 2 holes and attach it right to your bench. That's the easiest way to go. Or you can clamp this whole thing in a vise. Even easier. I'm just showing you an expedient way of doing it with clamps on whatever area you may be working in. So the first thing we want to do is I want to trim a little bit more of this material right here off. So we're going to, first we're going to bend that out. Okay, then I'm going to come in here, I'm going to snip that right there. Come in here with a file. I'm just going to take those sharp edges off. Okay. Then we can go ahead and close that up. But first we need to put it on our chain. So here's our chain. Going to put that on the end. Now we can close this all up. Okay. And I want to kind of tweak this a little bit to where it looks more like the original. Okay, that looks pretty good, looks pretty good. Okay. Now I want to straighten that up. It's got a little bit of offset bend in it. Okay, last thing is right here where we cut it. We want to take those sharp edges off. So, gotta hold it, take our file to it. Okay. I don't feel no sharp edges. There is our hook. It's very similar. It's not an exact match to the Yuko hook. It's a little bigger, but it's fine. Okay. Now, if we were to take our little candle lantern here, when we want a chain, we just use this clip. We snap it on. Now we have a chain that we can hang it with. But let's say you want this chain shorter. It's very easy to make it shorter without doing anything except what I'm going to show you. Pick where you want to make it shorter. Let's say we want to make it half shorter, which would be right about here. Take your hook, run it through that last link like that. See that? Now our chain is shorter. Let's say you want to make it even shorter. You're hanging in a tent. Come down here to the second to last link, run it through that. Now look how short it is. And you don't want the chain at all. So we just pop it off. The cool thing is you can take this chain and you can put it back in the storage cocoon so you don't lose it. Or use this snap and snap it to your backpack or another piece of gear. These snaps are surprisingly strong. You can use a much larger snap and the larger chain for a bigger lantern. I mean, look how big, if I can get it off, look how big this snap is. This snap is huge compared to this one. Pretty big difference between the two. And this is what I'm going to use to make one for this Ryobi. Alright? Now there's one final thing that you can do to your original candle lantern when you go ahead and you make one of these custom chains. And I'm going to show you that right now. You take this fine wire or a similar fine wire, and this is one of my complaints about the Ryobi chains, is that when you pick up this handle, this chain usually flops down one side or another. See? Like this. Now the chain's flopped down here and I'm holding it by this handle. It's annoying. And like I said, this hook tends to grab everything, clothing especially. So what I did is I wrapped this brass fine wire around here and I closed this loop off. See that? So now when I grab this handle, this chain doesn't go anywhere. This chain stays right where I want it to be, and when I don't want the chain, I merely take it. See, look at that. I grab that package. Those stupid hooks grab on everything. So now I can go ahead, I can set this on a surface, and I have no chain until I clip it back on here. Alright, storage in the cocoon with our new chain on. It's pretty simple. I usually pick a side. I usually do the logo for the top of the candle lantern. I just run the chain in there. Shimmy this bottom in. just like that. And now I know the logo's the top. That comes off first. And I can pull out and my lantern's ready to go. No chain. With chain. Thank you for watching.